And welcome to the Clash at the Castle review. We are the Dadley Boyz of WhatCulture. I'm Adam Wilborn, joined by Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick, here to review everything that happened at Clash at the Castle over the weekend. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we review Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a round of the week complete. A quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. As I said, they're joined by Hamflett and Sidgwick to review Clash at the Castle. What did you make of the show? What did you make of the crowd? Your thoughts, Hamflett?
Up and down show, like really, really high highs again from this B-show international market model. I share my concerns with Sidgwick, in fact, over the DMs on Friday night while watching SmackDown Live. He was watching the football, you see, about how the crowd sucked ass for SmackDown. They were unbelievable for Cody and AJ. Go out of your way to watch it. It's this magic of these.
When they threw up the decibel counter thing.
Like, go out of your way to watch these magic B-show moments and the other shows wrapped around them, the rest of it. Having to react to a bunch of people that aren't going to be on the PLE the next night. SmackDown has not been great lately anyway, so like they just weren't that hot. That wasn't a problem at all in the PLE. Like, the matches had been well built, so you could tell the stakes were high. I'm going to put on my Fed sword and shield for one match in particular in the middle of the card that I saw getting a lot of grief that I thought just nailed it and proved me wrong as well. But not without some controversy, some divisiveness, and some stuff I'm looking forward to debating, I think. A very newsworthy and interesting show for that.
Yes. There was some really cool stuff on this show. There was some actively atrocious stuff on this show. And I feel maybe a rant coming on surrounding the finish of a certain match, not necessarily for the same reasons that a lot of the fans, and from what I've taken, some of the media thought about this controversial finish. I've got a rant brewing, but it's different, I think, to a lot of others.
Is this preferable, I suppose, Sidge, for you? You've praised this international model that they've taken on.
I think it's a genius strategy. Imagine if all of this, from WrestleMania onwards, just takes place in some hot towns, some really cold ones in the US. It looks like a very different picture.
Let's get into it then.
What were you going to say? Sorry.
No, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, is because there's the weird bit, obviously. You get backlash generally as a sort of cooling down PLE after WrestleMania, and then it's a bit like killing a bit of time until Money in the Bank, and then SummerSlam, and then a little bit, and then again dies down a bit, and then Survivor Series, and then you're on the road to WrestleMania after that. But yeah, that was what I was going to ask you. Was this must be preferable to just Fastlane's a bad example because that's normally the road to WrestleMania, but generic May, June PLE.
Yeah.
I will reiterate the same take that I had following Backlash. What an unbelievable masterstroke from Nick Khan / Paul Levesque. You at some point have to be boring or repetitive when there is no off season. You cannot be doing major. Look at this huge seismic storyline development. Look at this hot new star we're introducing. Bam. You can't keep doing that because you'll end up in the position AEW are in currently, where it feels like they've done everything and there is nothing huge that they seem to have left. Wrestling has to be boring when there is no off season, and they've very, very, very intelligently, tactically elevated the tedium.
Yeah, you're right.
They have.
I had a really good sort of case study for this from the weekend. I was on a stag do at the weekend and managed to just sneak in the first match on this card before we went and off and did other stuff. Firstly, people were like, "You watching wrestling for your job?" Which was the usual sort of drawn out explanation. Yeah. No, it's a full-time job. Yeah. But then some of them casual fans who occasionally be like, "What's going on in WWE? Is so and so still there?"
The Undertaker.
Yeah.
The Undertaker's still in it.
Yeah, that was The Undertaker.
Well, yes, he was at WrestleMania, actually. But, they were like,
The Rock about? Yes, he was.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
This is it. So he said, I saw The Rock was at Mania and da-da-da-da-da. And then they were like, what's going on now then? Who's around? Because presumably The Rock's not there now. I was like, no. But, Cody Rhodes is. And they're like, oh, is he not as popular since he won the title. And I'm like, well, just listen to this reaction he gets as he walks out in the Hydro. And obviously it was raucous. Cody Rhodes. Throughout this I Quit match for the Undisputed title, there was a bit of me, I will say this, so I'm not going to go through necessarily play-by-play here, we'll try and hit some of the highlights. The moment Cody came out and greeted his mum at ringside, I had the alarm bells of your booking going off in my head.
Ebu from WrestlePlace dropped that, and I think the whole internet read it and collectively went, oh my God, could this be happening? And like a credit to him for that take, but also to, I suppose, for Cody maybe for thinking about that as well and the optics of the family member at ringside when a babyface might quit and not like being afraid of saying the words because the Mick Foley rock finish always hangs heavy in the titty of these WWE ones as well. And he's like, I'll say it to you now because there's not any way in hell I'll say it on Saturday, that sort of stuff. Cody was the perfect babyface for this stipulation. Unsurprisingly, he's the perfect babyface for most things. But
yeah, I mean, they are so lucky to have him. It just, this development doesn't just simply happen. It's all but impossible, especially in 2024, to get a babyface of that genre, of that ilk, as over as Cody Rhodes is. And this match was just demonstrable evidence of what a star they have got and how fundamentally important he is.
Both men busted open.
Well, they weren't busted open.
You think there was a fakie there on?
Even if fakie or Blaney.
On Cody especially, he was,
yes.
It was awfully bright, wasn't it?
It was awfully bright.
He was disappeared for a split second, yeah.
You know what? We're not going move for move. I'm going to talk about this now, okay?
Okay.
I don't think anyone's made this take, but that's why you come to this podcast specifically for the goddamn insight. This is not the first time I've noticed this, and it's kind of a problem, right? It happened, in fact, at Forbidden Door last year and potentially at Wrestle Kingdom in those otherwise unbelievable matches between Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. And it happened again here, whether the blood was fake or whether it was just a poor blade job. And there's a way to do a good one. There's various ways, like aspirin and all the rest of it, right? And I distinctly remember it happening with Ospreay and Omega in Toronto last year. What happens is, if you go too early with the Crimson Mask, whether it's real blood from the blade or some kind of prop, is that the sheer amount of athletic endeavor in pro wrestling, because you do the Crimson Mask or the blade job, and then you do, 15, sometimes 20, 25 more minutes of action, spots, these really intricate, convoluted sequences, and, like, the sweat tends to thingy all away. The sweat makes it all go away. It absolutely happened in Ospreay Omega. If you watched the last 5 minutes of that match in Toronto, the second one, you forgot that there was a big blade job. They're perspiring so much through all of this athletic endeavor that the blood goes away. And if it's not a great one to begin with, you're in trouble. Moxley does it, but he was a great bleeder. He doesn't even do it that much anymore. Thanks. You ruined all that one with your constant memes and your in-jokes. Other than Moxley, the best one I can recall in recent memory was, of course, Dustin Rhodes at Double or Nothing 2019. What did he do, or rather, what did he not do when he was pissing blood out of his face? The best moment of drama I can remember in that match was Cody Rhodes is wrenching those legs, and Dustin Rhodes is locked in this figure four, right? And there's a bit where, and because his jelly leg selling is incredible, and because he's legitimately in a distressing situation, the best spot in that match is he's lying down, and the referee's like, oh, shoulders are down. 1, 2. He's like, oh, God. He was so out of it and blood-soaked and fatigued by the match that he just forgot that he was, like, in a hold with his shoulders pinned to the mat. That's the opposite of doing, like, Sky Twister presses and Terminator dives, and in the case of Cody and AJ, about, 20 more minutes of work. I don't think that it's necessarily that bad a blade job or prop work. I think the modern match isn't really compatible with blood loss.
I think an example that came to mind with me Cody, camera goes back to Cody Rhodes after. Either way, he's either like there's a prop or he's bladed.
It was a ring bell, wasn't it?
So that AJ's provided the visual distraction while Cody does whatever he's doing, and you get that initial gasp from the crowd, that lets you know, like, right, we're ratcheting up the violence in the match now, or things have just gotten serious. No matter if, like, some of this feels a bit cartoonish, this violence, now it's getting real. And it reminded me of how the tone shifted in Joe versus Punk when you saw Punk's at Wembley. Again, it's on the floor. Again, Punk emerged. Like, the table bump is so funny. Like, Joe's just on the walkaway and he swings Punk in. Gives him that. It's really, really funny. And then the camera pans back to Punk emerging from under this table and he's all busted open. It's like, oh God, right, things have turned a bit now. And you're not, in both these cases, this match and that one, lasting visual is not of somebody in the Crimson Mask. It's not of somebody covered in blood. It's of the match itself. And I think this was very effective for the tonal shift without leaving a memory of Cody soaked in blood from, like, victory in battle or anything, you know?
Is that a bit of a conspiracy theory from me there? If they're like, we want to get colour, but don't get too much because we want to still be able to show clips and photos and what have you,
like their PG version of how to illustrate blood. Like, the effect in the point of blood, obviously, you know, is always to, like, generate that feeling that, like, things have turned even nastier than you thought possible, and create those, like, lasting visuals. Again, I wouldn't say a lasting visual was created here, but it definitely, the crowd for the first time in the match went from, like, I think they were more engaged in the action than the France crowd in terms of the sing-along, but it definitely went from, right, this is a weapons plunder brawl thing, but this is serious business and Cody might lose. So it had its lasting effect, even if the visual was all but gone, wasn't it? You didn't see the blood by the end.
Yeah. There were numerous other memorable moments. That rough-looking spill. He's got AJ up in the air and they go over the ropes and clatter into the apron and what have you.
Brainbuster on the announce table.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
There was the handcuffs behind the back. There was
They didn't do that very well, I will say.
There was the chain around the arm going for the phenomenal forearm, and then the chair through the table. That was a great spot.
Unbelievable spot,
That was a great spot of, well, quite frankly, it was a bit of slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of levity here, and I think that was quite important in terms of how this match played out and was received. In WWE, you're not going to get, like, Starrcade 83 dog collar.
No.
You know, you're not going to get that ultra-violent, attritional, life or death, distressing tone. So maybe it is just a hodgepodge of what you would get in a grudge match and what works for the attention span deprived audience of 2024. Of right, okay, we get the distress of the blood, but it's all right. You're going to get some slapstick bumping. Really creative, really well done. Like, I don't think there were any real true ideas that was sort of linked one to the other so consistently that I was truly lost in it, that it became a truly classic match. In the best way, this is a Cody Rhodes title defense. Loads of ideas, so many, in fact, that you didn't really get bored once. Did it all come together to create this undeniable, pun intended, modern classic? No, but they got a really, really loud crowd, hot for the duration, and again, Cody's just so full of ideas. I think people gravitate towards that.
Yeah.
He's a man who can never, ever be boring. That's what people love about him. Since 2016, if there's no Cody Rhodes in this industry, there's probably not a me. And I think people gravitate towards him for that, even if in the traditional structural sense, these matches aren't what you would consider amazing, grudge-fueled classics. And again, the finish, I wasn't sure about, but Cody's in the sweet spot now, this eternal honeymoon, if you like, where it's like, people don't care. If a pair of steps are in your face, was that the best finish? I don't know. Was the fact that he just did it anyway? Well, he's a knob to his mom. I would have done it anyway. I think that behaviorally, the baby face is probably justified. But again, Cody can kind of do what he wants at the minute. The big steel steps when he can see that there's nothing inside. And what, other than they're heavier, is the difference between that and how thin the metal is. How different is it to a baking sheet? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it was that good a finish, but Cody's invincible right now, so it doesn't really matter.
I actually bought AJ Styles' fear of that more than thinking about what he was being threatened with. I thought it was quite effectively, played out quite effectively.
Such a cumbersome thing. He could have kicked him in the balls.
Yeah, I suppose he could have. Like, he was trapped by it, but I bought the fear, and I would typically as well. Like, I wouldn't love that. It's a bit John Cena, isn't it? I'm gonna hit him anyway. Like, I'm just going to be everything to everyone. There's an element of like old style Undertaker. I'm the hardest. I'm the best. Nice try, big man, but I don't sleep. But I did like him looking to his own mother for the encouragement to do it, and then giving Graves lip because Graves had made a comment on SmackDown the night prior saying, I'm not sure if Cody quite knows the level that he needs to reach to beat AJ in this like situation that AJ finds himself in. And Cody said something like, I can't get to that level, can I not? Well, you AJ, and he gives him it. I think that was like that sort of giving the WWE babyface the next thing. If you even doubted he didn't have it, here you go, you've seen it. I like
introducing a bit of an edge to Cody as well. And eventually, when he turns, like that's what I was saying to some of the other people who were watching it, like he's the biggest babyface in the world, obviously. Yeah. And then they were like, "When's he going to turn heel?" And I was like, "That's what we're all asking as well."
It's not even, and I think this is like possibly goes underrated with babyfaces. It's not even that big an edge, but it's just enough, and you can overreach with those things and really ruin it, or you can undercook it, which I guess is maybe what you're saying, Sidge, with the stairs. You can under deliver, and then you think, you have a bit more in you than that. Like how angry were you? I suppose. What I loved about this, because I can't pretend it was some sort of like weapons classic. It wasn't. It didn't have a particularly logical flow. I enjoyed the use of everything.
Yeah, I liked him cuffing him to the ropes and just twatting him with the chair and going, I'll just keep doing this.
Yeah, like there was some super creative stuff in there, but I wouldn't say it was this like storytelling masterclass particularly. But what I loved, because what it was, for me, what it had to compare itself against was Backlash. A great wrestling match between two wrestlers exchanging wrestling moves. This couldn't have been any more visually and tonally like distinctive from the last one. And you will remember the Backlash match for what that was, and you will remember the Hydro match for what that was. And they're both just their own things.
Yeah.
Cody has shown in every arena that he can get it done. Like this was, I don't know, this was very sort of 2000 rock, and didn't feel anywhere near as like shortcutty and gargary. And I think that's a credit to Cody. He does make it feel real.
He's an incredibly passionate dude.
Yeah.
Which helps. And
so much more authentic than a Cena as well.
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
by leagues.
I just think he is the perfect babyface. He's the guy who's, like for 2024 specifically, he's the guy who's rescued you from the monotony of the monopoly. People just love him for that. Even like the WWE fans probably begrudgingly are like, right, okay, well, it's better now and we'll show them. And we've got one of theirs to show them. And honestly, like I think I'm onto something with the idea of there's a disjointed quality to these sorts of very specifically Cody matches. Cody is sort of like, I don't know, it's so hard to pay attention to anything now. Like everyone's attention span is totally cooked. He's kind of the wrestler for you in that regard, where it's like, here's an idea. Oh, here's another one. It's kind of impossible to get bored watching Cody Rhodes do literally anything. And I think this match was evidence of that.
I also really liked Mama Rhodes going, is this the bit where I slap you? And then thinking, that was the bit. So I'll just add a few more just to make sure it's really hammering the point home.
So just point about everybody watching. If everybody wasn't watching, they wouldn't have been able to screenshot Women's Tag Team Champion talent name as quickly as they did when Cody first hit the ring. People are that glued that like it was such a win. I was watching live and it was such a win for like people. Ha! Terrible WWE, got you! Like straight away the gotcha tweets are appearing. It's like there could be countless wrestlers that could come out on Raw every week and people would never notice.
Yeah, I know.
Or like on SmackDown or something. Oh, here's DIY, and they've been like keyed as A-Town Down by accident or something. Nobody would clip that.
Nope.
Nobody.
I also appreciated the What Culture Pro Wrestling shout out from Cody on his little video he shot backstage following the match. And
been consistent with
point
that
of
as
the
well,
UK wrestling scene, right, let's move on to the Women's Tag Team title match.
There was a big angle that followed the match.
Oh, yes, I should mention that. Yeah, Solo Sikoa coming out and the Bloodline getting involved, and then Owens and Randy making the save, possibly indicating where we're going next.
Yeah, so the Bloodline have obviously been saying for weeks they've had Cody in check without particularly furthering what they might be on about there, and here it was the first sign that they haven't forgotten and they're going to attack and stuff. And then this was a nice, I'll tell you what I loved, two things about this. Obviously, it's WWE storytelling, but I like it. Randy Orton giving the belt the eyes. It's like, I actually want to watch that. I want to see this Randy Orton versus this Cody Rhodes.
My eyes are up here, pal.
Yeah. I don't know how the matches can be good, but at this point I've got so much faith in Cody that they might be. Law out the ass, different journeys, all that sort of stuff. In the meantime, Cody and Kevin Owens and Randy Orton being together against this Bloodline is everything. I mean, everything SmackDown needs, because it needed Cody in it. It needed to feel main event again. It needed to steal the Raw formula from last year.
I was going to say shades of Raw last year.
A bunch of banger tag matches. It desperately needed this arrangement of babyface. I love the Street Profits, but that wasn't going to be it, unfortunately, or Bobby Lashley or anything like that. Good booking, and ultimately the fact that it exists really for Cody and Randy to move that forward. Good stuff.
Then we got the women's tag team title match. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill defending against Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, and the unholy union of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Match obviously affected by the top rope issues that plagued this entire show, but a surprise Scottish victory, which is lovely, genuinely, for Alba Fire, obviously considering what she's been through. A great moment for her and Isla Dawn, and a real surprise.
A couple of things here. So, in the press conference, Triple H said he wanted to get it out there that, like, I don't want people to think that this has happened.
Yes.
He didn't say this, but just to be nice, right? I get why he would do that in the interest of protecting the integrity of his talent and indeed his booking, but I think it was, and I think that's okay. Sometimes nice is just nice, and Christ, how many years in debit WWE to doing nice things for the wrestlers, right? So, like, there's about 25, 30 years of goodwill that needs making up with more decisions like this to do the nice thing on the nice night for the wrestlers, because ultimately, no matter what we say and no matter how easy it is in wrestling to sometimes be flippant about wins, losses and titles, to the wrestlers, it absolutely does matter. And if the occasion is right, as it clearly was here, just do it. And, like, I completely support every criticism of booking. Like, you know, the union were reduced to nothing as recent as last week's Raw. We even said it. We said, well, if you thought they were going to say, why not? Let's strap up the Scottish baby faces. They're not going to now. You've seen what you've seen. Like, Jade and Bianca easily going to retain. They're probably going to leave these two teams behind afterwards, all that. I wouldn't be surprised if these belts are flipped within a month.
Yeah.
And the decision really does reveal itself as a nice one. I support the decision. Like, it's 2024. Everything's post-kayfabe. Sometimes just do nice things. I will be the one for a change to curse the name of Legento, because I am suspicious of this top rope thing. Right, Jade Cargill had a stinker, and it wasn't just a botched dive. She had a bad night, the worst.
It started off well, like the initial moves, like the usual Bianca and her doing double team stuff was class. But yes,
it was the reverse of
fell
Backlash.
From there, didn't it? Yeah,
it's the reverse of Backlash, because she botched in Backlash, and then do you remember how incredible that finish was with Kairi Sane, where just like she flipped it into the you know, Jesus Christ, like she's like freak strength, nobody can touch her, star power out the ace. This was the reverse, all good at the beginning, then had to sell a bit on the floor, looked terrible, finally got the hot tag. The hot tags have been great on TV. This was a nightmare. Like, the whole match fell apart as a result of her botch, which was unfortunate at the end. You could see like what seconds felt like hours as everybody sort of like tried to regroup. The Phantom Tap was quite stress-inducing.
What was she doing?
Well, I don't know, right? Other than sort of, unless there was a shoot thing of he's up, or I don't know, the commentators couldn't not call attention to it. So then you've made the referee look stupid. Shayna Baszler you could see in her eyes, do I sell this? Do I no sell it? What are we doing here? Because then the referee comes around to the front and there's still like a bit of a tap in motion, and you cannot do that now. Taps are too established and too bedded in that, like, that's, you know, you used to see it before taps were regular, that like wrestlers would bang on the floor for support, not now.
And then Taz changed it.
Yeah, you cannot do it. So like that was, again, people felt it in the building. Like, we're coming up for finish. No, it's not the finish. This is weird. And then obviously you got what you got, the like sort of opportunistic pinfall victory to do the nice thing. Really not good. Jade Cargill, I love her. I don't think wrestling matters when you're Jade Cargill, but it has to be better than this, because there were 3 or 4 points where it killed the flow, and you were trying to, if you're going to crown hometown star champions in a situation like this where the stakes are relatively low, then you at least want it to play out as expected and play out as planned, and this was anything but.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely diabolical what happened, and it's even worse from a WWE marketing optics sense when Paul Levesque, who probably didn't do his due diligence and tried to cover his arse in that snarky way that he constantly does when Jade Cargill, pretty much immediately upon signing, was getting limoed about to Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, and doing the whole, where am I going to turn up next, or which brand am I going to join? And then she disappeared off the face of the earth. And I think Levesque was questioned about it, and he said something along the lines of, she just wasn't trained, so she's not ready. So we're going to delay that debut. I mean, what can you expect when she was over there? She's obviously not ring ready.
It was a dig.
Yeah. She's not ready for WWE. That would be the subtext, air quotes. And then, she joins the World Class Performance Center, gets a training, they prep her up real nice, and then she arrives and she's still not a professional wrestler. So what does that say about your performance center? Like, what? Someone should have asked him that in the press conference, realistically. All right, you said this. That was your explanation as to why you delayed the debut. And she just has to go to the World Class PC. It's all going to be copacetic. And then, this was a disaster. And I really like Jade Cargill. I admire the hell out of her story. I truly do. I enjoy watching her on screen. Like, I always get it's a good sense that there's a person who deserves the spotlight. But this was diabolical, displayed zero instincts whatsoever. It's one thing to do a botch. She wasn't springboarding off the top rope during the rest of the match. And maybe it's shook her. And obviously it would have. It must have been humiliating. You've got the pressure to make, she's probably thinking, I've messed up the babyface's nice win in their nice time. And she's probably getting in her own head. I can't speak for her.
You can see through a wrestler's eyes.
But that's sometimes. The thing. I just got the feeling that there was a guilt and then a pressure and a stress. And, she hasn't been equipped to deal with, a three-way tag that's got multiple moving parts and a lot to remember, a lot to bear in mind. She just had a nightmare. She's not equipped to deal with a nightmare. She doesn't have the experience. She doesn't have the training. She's not a worker in the traditional sense of the word. What are they doing telling her to come off the top rope? She's not the most coordinated of wrestlers. She's got presence, aura, unreal power game. It's not just she has this incredible physique and this strength and she can lift people up and slam them down. She knows how to register it.
Yeah.
She's got that star power, but she doesn't have that know-how, that knack to get things. She's not a worker. She isn't. And this match was evidence of that. It keeps happening. It keeps happening. I don't know what the answer is because you can't have her lose these back and forths for 15 minutes against anyone. And then in 2 years, when she's nice and polished, you give her that push because she exists to be dominant. You know what I mean? It's Jade Cargill is a living conundrum of a pro wrestler.
The hot tag's the right move. I've seen it on television.
Yes.
That's halfway inspired.
It's the right move, but when it goes wrong in execution, it's the worst case scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that it's a conundrum, and neither promotion has solved it.
The just to go back because I think I got lost in the complimenting the nice booking for Isla Dawn and Alba Fire,
and that what I did enjoy. I thought it was nice. It was nice.
The rope stuff. To be clear, what I was trying to say there, video surfaced yesterday where people had cut together, seemingly off their own back, in fact, clips of at least once in every match a wrestler or a spot illustrating that there might have been a problem with the top rope. Of course, the two obvious ones are the Jade and the Damian Priest. Anybody would have seen them, but there was also clips. There was the one where Sami Zayn struggled to get Gable over the top rope. At one point, AJ Styles was pulling on the rope, whatever. It just felt a bit off to me that I saw 2 or 3 of those, in some cases, presumably, because I would have seen them, shared by accounts that have sizable followings that often have to get a message out. We know that WWE have press on message. I have my suspicions that AEW too, but if they don't, they should. It's the game now. And it felt a bit on message to get this out that because I think in the main event, I think the botch actually helped the match.
Oh, yeah.
But either way, they were probably trying to protect 2 pretty embarrassing botches by suggesting, well, it was bad kit. And it puts me in mind of some of the stuff you would say. So just what? So WWE would rather out there saying that our rings are crap rather than our wrestlers are crap. It's still crap when you're the market leader, but they're trying to do, that felt like damage limitation as filtered out by certain birds they've got in the press that will look after them. It's just my speculation.
It's just, Damian Priest isn't the best wrestler. I know he had a really good night, but he isn't. Jade Cargill isn't. Maybe sometimes Occam's razor is Occam's razor.
Yeah.
Let's move on and talk about the Intercontinental Championship match. Chad Gable with a select group of members from the Alpha Academy, Maxine Dupree and Otis, taking on Sami Zayn. And, well, the story of this match is sort of Otis costs Chad Gable again. But that's barely even half of it.
I was wrong. I thought that the leaning in to the Otis story was overwhelming the Intercontinental title on television. I thought that Chad Gable simply couldn't afford to lose here. He had to win the Intercontinental title. I thought that getting so excited about having like a diet bloodline that they'd, I don't want to say inadvertently crafted, but certainly it's become over to a level I don't even think Triple H would have expected creatively. I think he would have imagined there would have been a ceiling to this, but it is on a lot of Raws been the story of the night, even like some of the quarter hours, let alone the noise in the building. So they went with that instead of just Chad Gable's attempt to win the title, and you got about half a match that was mostly about the quality of the wrestling between Gable and Sammy, which was good, not on a par with their match they had on Raw, I would say, which was strictly about the wrestling of two baby faces, who's the better one. You had that at the start of the match, good without ever getting great, and then the soap kicked in, and the soap was great. Like, really, really, like, I am completely pulled in. I'm in love with the drama. I'm in love on an analytical level with the construction of the drama. That spot and the moving pieces that got to the point where Otis and Chad were side by side after Chad chop blocked Maxine Dupree wearing the boot.
A split second after it, you thought Maxine Dupree's about to get her Hoover kicked as well. Yeah.
As a result of being knocked in by Sammy in a nice reversal of these confusions that have been happening on Raw, and then you see them side to side, and the building just comes unglued. And I've had like friendly debates with people on X this week, and I was like, sometimes I watch this and I was like, that's the business. Like, work the crowd, work the story that matches the crowd. And I thought this was, they were just simpatico. And I understand booking wise how, well, Chad can't get another go, and I don't think he will, by the way. Sammy, I think, is moving on. Chad has lost here, but the story now about Chad joined up with the Creeds is, you in losers have absolutely fucked me, and I'm going to get with some hard lads, and we're going to be really nasty about it.
This was, in retrospect, the only result that should have happened.
But I was so wrong in the run-up, and I think a lot of people felt quite burnt by this one. I think we're going to get onto the main event, but people were already feeling like our WWE have ruined it again. Like, they've gotten overexcited with their soap at the expense of getting this belt on Chad Gable. Sami Zayn as an Intercontinental Champion is a pretty strong position after this, and this was always going to be tricky because you always had to follow Gunther. The story has left him in a better spot than even I would have forecast 7 days ago, and I will remember this at the end of the year, and I think so will the people in the building. The noise for every single little look, as deliberate and as very WWE as it sometimes is, the one on the floor where Sami's leaning against the ring and like Otis is very sort of dramatically pulling his fist back. You can hear the people going, no, no, please. The visual of him carrying out, and he stands in the aisle, and you know full well it exists, so the camera can see Chad in the corner, and then he stationed himself perfectly for the Hoover kick. This took construction. It didn't just abuse the story. It factored into the match. This is WWE for me. And this is what I want.
The crowd arguably helped as well, because the commentators were saying, like, why is he wasting his time, berating Otis or shouting at Otis and Maxine during the match? But the crowd throughout the match are like, Otis, we know what he wants you to do here. Here's a constant reminder, we love you for who you are.
Please don't do it.
Don't do it. So he's trying to counteract that, going, don't listen to them. Listen to me. I'm the one who's always been here for you. Remember what we're here for. I love this.
The blocking. That was the word I was after. Sorry. The blocking throughout.
I'll be fair. This obviously went over incredibly well in that hot building. It's just not for me. And I'm going to try and just not do the whole, like, that's an easy thing to say. I want some wrestling and it's sports entertainment, and maybe I'm reviewing the wrong thing after all. But I just thought with this one, with Chad Gable and Sami Zayn, I just care so much about their ceiling of what they can reach in terms of a proper wrestling program for my tastes, because that's just what I like. And I thought if there's any kind of story, like proper human interest based on the ultimate stakes, the failure of me as a man, what man I'm going to become in response to those failures. It just felt like proper wrestling stuff, like a bit of me for this sports entertainment promotion. And to be honest, like, as popular as it is in the buildings, and as over as it is in the buildings, and God damn it, like, Chad Gable's getting those ratings. Like, this is the wrong take on an objective level, but maybe there should be a little bit for me. Like, people who like wrestling prevent me from being snarky arseholes, and maybe you'll get a few more. Maybe you can corner that market on AEW all the more if you just give us some proper, believable, mano-a-mano professional wrestling as opposed to another kind of bloodline retread. But that's what's working for them big time at the moment. Just listen to it. And I don't want to just do, not for me, I want my wrestling. 'Cause that's spoiled. And maybe it's like bad analysis because you're trying to take something from it that they simply don't give you. And I grasp that. One thing I don't like about this isn't just that it's not what I expected in the fallout of WrestleMania and not my kind of thing. Like, my critique of this isn't limited to that. And again, what do I matter? What's my voice in this? Because these fans in the building went crazy for it. There's an example here, the one you brought up with the camera shot. It was a Gable and Otis looking at each other. And there's one in the main event as well. I think they're too in love with their own production to the point where they're losing sight of what it is they are trying to produce. Here, it just felt like the main event is so much more glaring, so stupid about how they're doing shot first, logic after, right? Here, it was like, it just felt so stilted and soapy. And I just think, you're in love with this buzz. You know Levesque loves the buzz. You know he loves getting the fruit baskets. You know he loves pointing to his hot new signings when he's in NXT and all the rest of it. He loves it more than he would ever admit. Like, me and my friend Mark, can I just shock you? Me and my friend Mark like Paul Levesque. He's like, oh, I know you do. This is great. He listens to this. I'm so glad Kevin Dunn's gone. It's real cinema now. I think you'll see more of this. We need the shot, and then the acting, and then the storytelling can follow afterwards. And I don't want to dig her out. We say this all the time. Maxine Dupree is not a trained actress, and she is barely a trained wrestler. Her selling and stuff, I personally think it's bad acting. I sometimes know why people think. Some people think of me the way they do, right? I can be an arsehole. I actually watch films, and I think I've got half decent taste. So when I see Maxine Dupree in particular sell that chop block, and it's just bad soap acting to me. And it's particularly egregious for my tastes alone when I know I could be getting the wrestling here. But what do I know? Everyone's going nuts for it.
Where were you at on this one?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah. Really enjoyed it. I loved the teasers of like the haluva kick or the attack on the outside. Maxine with the belt was ridiculous, as Sid just alluded to. But like, you never know. You never know whether Otis is going to grab it. It's just the tension around it all. Just like, and then you're right. Both on sort of all fours visual. Maxine's writhing around, and Chad's like, oh no. Yeah. I'm in real trouble here. And then, it's a good way to do it. And like you say, I was in agreement with you in the build-up of like, this is the time to put the belt on Chad. And I've no idea, I have no idea where he goes from here. I don't know where he goes in terms of the title from here, but that's...
If you think about it... I think that's okay, by the way.
Yeah, well, one of my notes for the Raw preview is what next for the Alpha Academy? What next for Chad Gable?
This is wins and losses mattering. He has lost.
This is episodic. I get it.
His way out of it now,
It makes, in retrospect, you've built all of that background, in the literal background, you have built up the idea that Chad Gable is going to turn to the Creeds. He's done with these clowns and then messing it all up for him. You'd have no reason to go with the Creeds had he won the Intercontinental title here.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that he lost.
Let's talk Bayley versus Piper Niven for the WWE Women's Championship. Piper Niven, of course, accompanied by Chelsea Green. And what was her other name that they gave her? Was it Lucha Chelsea Green or something along those lines?
Yeah. It was something. It was a play on Nacho Libre, I think.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
You're right. What did you make of this? I didn't really make a lot, if I'm honest.
I've thought this about Bayley as a babyface thus far, and more of Triple H's booking of the women's division than he probably gets enough criticism for. This was yet again chickens coming home to roost stuff. It was route one to put Piper Niven in this match on account of the fact that she's from Scotland. Like a bit like this in the tag title match, but I think we had the Jade Cargill stuff to talk about that it didn't really come up. Like the Unholy Union came out, no pop. The music is terrible, definitely useless. They get the reaction at the end. Amazing feeling. They're holding the belts up. You've got what you needed out of that.
And the flowers, which is, lovely.
Yeah. Piper Niven, mostly the same. They've had 3 weeks of just basically, she cut one really good promo 3 years too late to buy her in a title match, and then had an attack angle on SmackDown that was badly botched by an embarrassing production gaffe. I don't know if you've seen it. Like Bayley and Naomi walking down a corridor and Chelsea Green runs out of shot before they're supposed to surprise attack them. This was on SmackDown. Look to state. But yeah, like initially, the hometown favourite, that sort of thing, but just doesn't have enough equity as a babyface. And the match, like, not to say I told you so, but like this was the one time, the one opponent in Bayley that you were actually going to divide the audience up with a Scottish challenger. And like, for all it made sense in theory to give Piper Niven the match, and she told that quite nice story about how she'd lined up all these reasons she's going to go to Paul Levesque with and say, I want to have this, and he said, don't worry, we're working on it. Well, he wasn't, because what they worked on is putting her in the match graphic. What they didn't work on is a creative reason for this match to exist. I love Bayley with all my heart and need a good match from her because they are just not forthcoming. And I don't know if it's just like the injuries have piled up. I don't know if there just isn't a character role that fits for her beyond the baby face that we really fell in love with, rather than this kind of like, I get it, I get the character. She's finally kind of like fulfilled all her sort of obligations as a heel. She's a good person now. I don't see where the good matches are coming from out of Bayley. And this was another case of like not really delivering much about. Hit each other quite hard. It's about the nicest thing I can say. Yeah,
I mean, I just watched it.
Yeah,
and it was there.
That's kind of with you on that one.
Just didn't really do a great deal for me. And, you know, Hamlet makes the point of just like, there was just, it's a reason why like house shows don't get filmed.
Yeah.
This is very, very, very like local audience specific. They didn't even entertain the idea of convincing me that it was anything more than that in the build. When you're watching for they might give the hometown wrestler a win for a while and a quick reign, especially when you'd already seen, potentially anyway, a version of that in the tag team title match. This just screamed inessential in my face.
Yeah.
Big Stag weekend, was it?
It was indeed. And I kind of felt nothing for this. Like, I was happy for Piper to have her moment. I was entertained by Chelsea Green coming out and being like, I'm not Chelsea Green, I've got a mask on. You know, Piper gets to kick out of like a super Bayley to belly and gets a good near fall in there as well. But even the finish, I was just like, oh, that's it.
Yeah, the kickouts, you know, this, again, talking about matches for buildings and stuff, those kickouts should have been seismic because she's kicked out and it's in Scotland and like now they're going to root for her. She survived that. And it wasn't. It was just, right, we're moving on to the next thing now. You never had that.
You cannot as well. It's not just the rest of the world, apart from this one relatively small city compared to the vast planet. Like, they might feel patronised by this as well.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, they like Piper Niven. They want to get behind her. But if they don't buy the TV build, like, you could obviously buy McIntyre potentially as a winner.
That's really something, because what do we know about Bayley? They love Bayley. We love Bayley.
Yes.
The feeling, the emotional connection is different.
It was unforgivably lazy episodic TV booking, which shocked me because I've been reliably informed that it's the hottest cinema going, and they paid the price.
Yeah.
They paid the piper.
Very nice.
Nice.
Pressure on Bayley and Nia Jax. That's the one. If that can't be.
God.
He's already made his mind up. It's goated, apparently. Is it?
She's going to have the queen, the princess is going to be there with the Money in the Bank
she beats it
briefcase
out,
as well. That's going to be our match of the year, probably.
Let's
Let's get to the main event, and we'll try and talk about this in sort of two parts, because I want to talk about the match and then the finish, if possible, because they do feel like two very separate things. Let's talk about the match. Obviously, a great entrance for Drew McIntyre. Really felt big time, including with Damian Priest out there playing sort of spoiler.
What a bagpipes if you haven't seen it.
Yes.
There's people who don't watch the Fed. Let's give them some context.
Should watch the Fed.
Bagpipes.
Scotland the Brave playing, which is all seen as like, that's Roddy Piper's. You can't have that. And it's like, you know, handing over that.
Flag, even just the flag, you know, coming out and grabbing a flag. Yeah, I loved it. But let's talk about the match, because you've raised question marks over Damian Priest as a world champion going into this, and I think it's fair to say he may have answered some of them during this match. And obviously there's the spot everyone's seen or is talking about, and thankfully from the reports we've seen, he seems to be fine. But the bit where he goes to tumble over the top with Drew McIntyre, gets his leg wrapped up in the top and middle ropes. A quick word from me on this. I mentioned this on the news. Just all credit to Drew to be, jump up, are you all right? Yes, I'm fine, I'm just stuck. And then, I'll just go back to being who I was then and just kicking the crap out of him whilst the referee's desperately trying to free him.
Like, to talk about that.
And I will say, sorry, one thing, so it will just disappear from my head. I'm very forgetful. I don't necessarily think he's a good or great or whatever commentator, Corey Graves, but he's quite vital in terms of, he said when, so it was like a terrible step up, toe pick on whatever.
Yeah.
from Damian Priest. He gets his foot tangled in the rope, and then his head spikes mid-somersault on the apron. It looks horrific, and his legs subsequently stuck. He's very good at covering up like plot holes and getting in front of a question that a fan might ask. In this case, the question that the fan might have asked was, he's got his opponent where he wants him. He can't defend himself. Why would he like try and get him out of that predicament? You can't pin him when they're in the ropes.
Yeah.
If he wants to win this title, get him out there so he can do it. And he's obviously, he's had his fun. He's kicked him a few times. He's took advantage, but he has to get out because he has to get him out of the ropes.
I wonder if Drew heard that because he then started saying it loudly at the people in the front row. He was almost like shrugging, going, I got to get him out. I need to win the belt.
Yeah.
So, because there's that moment where he looks to help him.
But Drew's instincts were good, so maybe he arrived at it himself.
Like, but as you say, that's what everybody should do when something goes wrong in a match, isn't it? It's like have enough on the fly about you to... No, like to say that Damian Priest is fine is to me to compliment his work in this as a starting point because he sold... now, for all we know, some of the story of the match might have been about like working the body part, but if you watch it back, it was mainly an exchange of power moves and Drew believing that he's more experienced and he's the uncrowned champion.
Almost a bit bland before it went, air quotes, awry, because it was better after.
They had like big moves to exchange and Drew doing the I'm experienced, I think you're a paper champion deal, while also being the massive hometown overwhelming favourite to win. And then as soon as Damian's selling the leg, it adds all this extra drama to everything he's doing. The razor's edge sticks out that he hopped while he was doing it. But he sold and sold and sold and sold to the point where everybody thought he was injured for real. The fact that he wasn't, oh my God, that's like a really impressive, consistent thing that he's done. As wrestlers should, by the way. I don't want this to come across like I'm just like doling out easy praise, but plenty wouldn't. Plenty would just see that, I looked pretty silly there. I need to make them forget. I need to go and be class. And he didn't. Like that was, at no point were you allowed to forget that happened to Damian Priest because of his constant selling of the ankle. And a combination, like, I'm the high guy on Damian Priest in a way, because nobody really has much of anything to say about him. And then every now and then, probably one in every like 25 Damian Priest, which is not enough, but one in every 25 Damian Priest matches, I'll really see and feel something. And then it'll be like, right, here we go. And then I've got to wait 24 more matches before the next one comes along. Of all the times for one to come along, for me, one really came along here, and it wasn't just the selling of the leg. Wrestling has this funny way of giving you opportunities sometimes, and this botch was an opportunity that he took, knowing he was going to win the match and knowing that he was going to come out with this still the champion with all the fire in his belly of hearing people saying he's not really worthy of it and he's a paper champion and all that. He wrestled this with almost like a defiant quality that I've never really seen out of him, especially not as like a world ever since he won the belt. He didn't feel like he was playing dress up as a world champion. He felt like he believed his own hype as a main eventer. This wasn't just Drew's night. He wasn't just fortunately in the right place against the hometown guy. He was here because he deserved it. And I loved that from him. I bought it and I felt it. And I wanted Drew to win. And, we're going to get to this. And there's like about 60 different conversations about this finish, seemingly from over the weekend, and the various different things that went into it. But just on Damian Priest, they did an unbelievable job yet again, as they did at Clash 22, of making it like, I can't lose for Drew where he lost. But someone's got to be that other guy. And we isolated Roman Reigns. We were there in person for Clash 22. Just a virtuoso night for Roman Reigns in terms of crowd control that night. Like, this wasn't that for Damian Priest, but he was concentrating on the task at hand. And this will be the defining night of him as champion. I don't think it can get much higher. I think he loses to Gunther. I think he maybe works Finn. I don't think any of that will make him feel as big as he felt on this night. Like a great night for Damian Priest, I thought.
I thought it was a great night for Damian Priest. I'm going to be slightly lower on my praise than Hamflet and maybe even the consensus in that I'm a dickhead. Like, if you're going to be the world champion in a company like WWE, the extravagant resources at their disposal, if you look at the global landscape of talent and how high it is, like for me, he's not an Ospreay Danielson or whatever. He just kind of isn't. And I think as a main event player, you should have the tools in the ring. One thing I'll say about Damian Priest, and it's going to sound like so backhanded, and maybe it is, and I don't mean it to. In terms of that very tropey WWE main event style, bomb, barricade gets broken, near fall, shot kick out. And folks, where's the lie? There was that in this match. It's just kind of what they do. This is the first time I saw him do that really, really well. And it must have been, as Hamflett points out, the small stuff. You're getting limited in what you can do in that WWE main event setting. So it's how you pace it, how you sell it, your demeanor, your facial expressions. It's almost more difficult. In a weird way, it is almost more difficult. Like doing the cliches. You can get a pop for a barricade spot, but you're not going to feel like a big deal doing a barricade spot because everyone does them. So it's one of those weird double-edged sword situations. But no, you had a great night, and I was banging to the drama by the finish. And the small things of just that 2.999 from the Claymore when he kicked out. It's like, oh, that's not the finish. And that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Got so few colours in that palette to play with. And he painted it really, really quite well. I thought that the match was a really, really impressive version of a WWE cliche.
Yeah, before we get to the next bit, he was in great form in the press conference after the fact. He was absolutely taking no shit. He was like, remember how much we loved him in the Puerto Rico one for various reasons?
What?
Just how confident he came across. Money in the bank is, I'm winning, and I'm like, can we just get to that, please? Like, I believe his that pressure that wrestlers put on themselves. They know what people are saying. They know they know consensus, even if they deny it, and nothing drives them more than proving people wrong. It's that weird wrestler. Like, I don't live my life like that, but wrestlers do, don't they? Like, I want to show them. You just enjoy it if you want, but like they feel like they really need to shove it in someone's face, and that he wears that well. Like, I buy him for now. I don't know how long it's going to last, but I'll buy him.
One more thing before we get to the next big important thing is that a performance like this, if they are eventually going to do the Damian Priest is above the Judgment Day, he's sick of these brats, he wants to be his own man and all the rest of it, this could be a good platform for that story. Yeah. He needed that crowd investment, and maybe he's got it on the back of that.
Right, let's talk the finish of Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. Divisive, certainly in this room, arguably the most controversial finish of the year. Who wants to take this first?
We'll lay out the finish for the listeners and the viewers.
Okay.
And then I will take it.
I will say, I thought it was quite a creative way of doing the ref bump, of the ref not just being like, oh, I've been smushed in the corner. Like,
he was getting up, wasn't he? Yeah.
Dodges to the apron, I think, if I'm not mistaken, getting out of the way of something, and then gets knocked off and he's down. Big stuff happens, obviously. Drew McIntyre nails Damian Priest. He's got him in position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's got the visual pinfall. And then they do the wide shot, and you see a black and white shirt running through the crowd. And they say, thank God, here comes another referee. And this referee slides in. 1, 2. No shoulder comes up. They just hold it at 2. And it is revealed, of course, it's CM Punk. Drew McIntyre cannot believe this. He grabs him by the throat. He takes him into the corner. CM Punk hoys him in the bollocks, of course. Gets out of there. South of Heaven chokeslam from Damian Priest. 1, 2, 3. He retains. And I know you two both have very different perspectives on this. The way it was shot, all of that stuff. Have at it.
Okay. I will let you talk about how cool the 2 thing was. Okay? And I will say as well, 2 things positive before I kind of have a rant, because this drove me insane, right? The 2 positive things, Hamflett's going to expand on this, my esteemed colleague, is that they did a really cool bit of mirroring. And I think they thought this mirroring was so cool that they've overthought how they've arrived at the visual they arrived at, right? The other positive thing I want to talk about, and this is possibly the most important, rather than the logic behind the finish, which for me did not exist at all. The finish and the decision to do it, and the business and the goodwill and the trust and all those way more important things than my pedantic way of thinking and analyzing about wrestling and analyzing wrestling, okay? WWE's formula these days, from Clash at the Castle, Elimination Chamber 2023, WrestleMania 39, the idea of people trying to will into existence. WWE've botched it again. They've told their audience to piss off. Like, I find that weird, because WWE wins now, and to be completely frank, I'm shocked that WWE, and specifically with the way he books Paul Levesque, has got it in him to be this daring and bold. I think the idea, as evidenced by Clash at the Castle 2022. Drew McIntyre is all the way over now. He's at his hottest. He's most interesting. He's in a better position now in terms of the interest he can generate. Certainly how he's parlayed that into his financial situation. Way more interesting than he was in 2020. And I would argue if the fans were in the buildings, it would still be better now, right? He's just a better character doing more important stuff that will linger in the memory. This will linger so much more in the memory than that good program with Randy Orton in 2020.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Sami Zayn, obviously, you could have made the argument that I could have went with him. They just happened to have Cody, so why wouldn't you? But, you know, they took care of him, the narrative afterwards. He gets his redemption at WrestleMania 39.
Yep.
And then he's consistently featured. And then he has one of the best moments of WrestleMania 40. And now he's in the key program on Monday Night Raw. He wasn't buried.
No.
They didn't ruin anything. And he'll sell out the next time they go to Montreal.
You get this because you watch, by the way.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people that aren't watching that still do not see it. Yeah.
It's because they want it.
They've earned let it play out.
That's the thing. That's a succinct way of putting it. They have earned let it play out. And people who are desperately trying to project an old reaction onto the new WWE are just, I don't see that operating in bad faith. I just think that they don't watch it to get that.
That's
when
all
they,
it is.
every single time they've done one of these, oh, you've botched it again. Thought with Vince gone, it would be different. It is. And if you look at all three characters, major characters that have been sort of the subject of these big, bold, heavy heat finishes, all three of them are at the very least in a similar position. Maybe Sammy, you could argue, but Cody and Drew back up and up and up and up and up. So I don't think there's any controversy, and I think that they've earned trust in the process, and this is me saying it. So in terms of the big, should they have strapped up Drew, their business model now is the world gets blown up for one character, and you will watch as it gets rebuilt, rebuilt. Now on to the logic. Oh my God, this is dismal stuff. So I'm watching this and I'm thinking, it's a weird way to do it, but go off. And then WWE.com posts a video. So they thought they were so clever with this. Here's how it happened. We've got to figure out. We've got it figured out. Here's how it happened. We've thought about this. You shouldn't have. So CM Punk, this is a WWE Twitter post, is watching backstage on a monitor, right? Bear in mind, he's not on the card. He has flown, maybe himself, to Scotland with the purpose of either sabotaging Drew or raising his hopes just to dash him, right? And the thing what I need to say as well, and I'm sorry, I will let you talk, is that I'm actually giving this the benefit of the doubt, and I still think it was dumb as a box of rocks, right? I don't think the idea, the implication was CM Punk putting on this referee t-shirt instantly gave him powers to officiate the finish.
Yeah, he didn't get a referee's license,
No, I don't think that's what's happened here at all. And I don't even think that's what they were going for.
No.
And I still think it was stupid, and I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. So CM Punk is watching backstage in what doesn't appear to be Gorilla. It's just like unspecified area of backstage. Am I right in thinking this?
Yeah.
Keep us right.
No, Jessica Carr was just outside the door, so there was nothing.
Jessica Carr is outside the door. Now, if you're WWE, you must be thinking, God, these clowns get bumped a lot, and the results go a little bit wrong for us when they do. Let's have a standby ref. So CM Punk's watching, and he goes, right, ref bump. Bloody glad that happened and this didn't go to a clean result. Otherwise, I've just flown myself over a great expense for no reason whatsoever. So it's already really contrived. So then he says to Jessica Carr, who should realistically be the standby ref. The refs get bumped a lot. It happens in wrestling. There's no action replay. And the thing is that there is such a thing as a standby ref, because I've seen 1 million WWE matches where they do the ref bump, the standby ref comes out, 1, 2, we've got a near fall situation. So I know standby refs exist. I know in the logical world of WWE, which apparently is cinema, levels, storytelling, cooking, goated, all of these words. It's funny how cinema, when something well received happens, right? And I tweeted this, I'll say it again. Cinema, when something like this happens, when there's something you can just pick apart and it makes no sense. I thought that deep wrestling stupid. Oh, really? Because I thought it was cinema.
I hate that.
I honestly thought it was cinema. Like, what, a month ago it was cinema, 2 months ago it was cinema, but now it ain't that deep, and now, whatever, right, really annoys me.
Those are losers.
Anyway, so Jessica Carr, so CM Punk has gone, right, DiCaprio, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, ref bump, right? And then he goes, right, how can I take advantage of this situation? I need a ref shirt. Right? Why does he need a ref shirt? Right? Why does he need a ref shirt? To begin with. Then Jessica Carr goes, oh, no. Oh, there's a spare one lying around. I will just have that from the merch box or whatever. They shouldn't have done this. If they'd just not done it, it might have been fine. I mean, they can do anything. That's the thing with WWE, so none of this matters. So he gets the spare ref shirt, right? Why is that there? And then he runs to the ring instantly to give a explanation for this finish, when none's really needed. It's just a distraction. It's just a troll move. They didn't need to overthink this, but they did, so I'm going to analyze it. Jessica Carr goes, sure thing, boss, and just gives him one. Why? What did he expect to happen? Right, what did he expect to happen here? Like, he's not going to go out there, one, and be a ref. He's not allowed. He hasn't got a license. And he's not going to play by the rules. It's CM Punk. Is it your first day? So they made this poor referee, look like a moron to contrive something they didn't even need to contrive. Is that even the worst bit? I don't think so, right? Surely the idea, right, is for Drew McIntyre to look down the entranceway, just see a sort of, in the distance, a figure in a black and white top, and just go, oh, God, there's a ref coming, right? Otherwise, why has he got the shirt on? He doesn't need the shirt for this to happen. He doesn't need to make Jessica Carr look like moronic for this to happen. Instead, Drew doesn't actually see anyone, no matter what they're wearing, okay? Hooks the leg, and he's looking skyward.
He's begged beforehand.
He's begged,
and then he's just sort of like laid back.
He's laid back.
And all that.
So the idea is stupid, because he's not looking at a ref and going, oh, God, yes. And then, oh, my God, the guy in the ref shirt, for this to possibly work to dash my hopes and then raise them and dash my hopes, is wearing a ref T-shirt. He's not even seeing the ref. So there's no need for Punk to have the T-shirt in the first place, right? And if you look at this, the way it was shot, this is what I was talking about earlier in the podcast, they are so in love with their production and how rave-reviewed it is nowadays that they've completely missed the point in this situation. This production and this ruse that CM Punk has pulled, even though he doesn't have to wear the T-shirt and all the rest of it, it's entirely for the benefit of the TV audience watching at home, because the crowd knows who it is. That's CM Punk. He's not wearing a mask. I can see his face. And the way it's filmed is that you see the pin and you see entering shot, and it's so still. Isn't it so great? It's so still. People can keep camera stills. It's level cinema. Into shots, slides CM Punk into the ring, and you see 1, 2, then the hand just goes like that. It's like, it's entirely for us to not see who it is, when surely the idea is for Drew McIntyre to think, I thought you were the ref, but it's you, dastardly CM Punk. Levels of atrocity to this.
So I saw it a totally different way.
Okay, but that's what this pod's for.
Yeah.
I completely get where you're coming from with every point you made, and I got
That's-
completely lost in it at the same time.
I did too, but every point you've made illustrates a very, very, very rational, that couldn't have possibly happened because of X, Y, and Z. Here's my take on it, and this is one of them situations where we might get this outright explained by CM Punk in a promo on SmackDown from Chicago on Friday or something like that. I'll go work in reverse first, because we were both marveling at this bit over the desks this morning. For them to arrive at the point,
I loved this bit.
a feud rooted in memes and the two of them dragging each other on socials.
Hate, troll, energy, that sort of thing.
All of that to create the visual of Punk, giving it that over the grave for Drew that he's just dug, basically. That's inspired. It's the visual of the weekend. It's the visual of the show. WWE is a capital M moments company, and that is a moment, and they've just made one, and it's earned, and it even dates back to the sort of iconic, for all the wrong reasons, Chicago three-way promo with Drew and Seth, where Seth was like, you can't count with that bad arm, and then Punk gets down and counts with the other arm, and then to illustrate that he could, and he says, but I probably wouldn't be a fair referee if you two are out there anyway. And it's like, so it's in that sort of, if you want to put ahead, I don't know, but I like that was always something people discussed before WrestleMania, wasn't it?
I will give WWE credit. They actually plan stuff out now, and you can't, again, it goes back to that thing of you are allowed to put them over now for the things that they demonstrably do.
I remember
it's almost stupid to say that they don't.
Like, what we got at WrestleMania was better, but I remember us talking about things like, well, he's coming out to commentate, but all it takes is unbuttoning his suit to reveal a referee shirt. And, I remember those chats. So, like, that sort of thing has existed in the ether. What I think happened here, and what I believe Punk will explain, and I could be made a fool of, because I think you might have just nailed the 6 reasons why this was illogical. I think,
at the very least, they've made that referee look like a moron.
Yeah. CM Punk, kayfabe's dead, so CM Punk's in Glasgow and the world knows, right? Drew's got Twitter too, so he's seen him in the Celtic shop. It was out there, Punk was there. I think that video existed to illustrate that Punk wanted to be in Glasgow, was watching the match, and was actually more than happy for Drew to win. I'm going to be cleared soon, and when I'm cleared, me and you are going to fight. So it's not too bad if you're world champion, because that means I get my world title shot. It's very much...
So why is he in Glasgow?
Well, because he wants to be there firsthand to see Drew McIntyre win it. He's like, no, WWE offered me the opportunity to come and see you. I want to come and see you, Drew. If I walk out there when you're crowned as champion, people will chant for CM Punk. They were excited to see me. There was people in my shirt. I've said this all along. Like, when people see you, they chant my name. That's like part of this. It's their ego war that the two of them are trapped in, and that'll be Punk's rationale for why he was in Glasgow. When he sees a referee goes down, he thinks, what's the best way to be the biggest arsehole I can be here? The Samoa Joe, I did this to you. He wants to create that moment. He wants to be the ref. He thinks of the idea on the spot. Perfect timing, Jessica. That's where it's silly. But like, of all the people, I needed you to be here. Can I borrow that referee? She's not even watching the match. She's not watching him on it.
Why isn't she? There's a monitor right there, and she's a standby referee.
Yeah, poor form. She's not watching the match, and she's like, "What do you need that for?" Yeah, it doesn't matter. Shut up. Can I borrow this, please?
Sure thing, boss.
Yeah, like that. Again, I'm not going to defend that. It's an enormous logic leap. I don't think CM Punk has travelled to Glasgow to dress up as a referee to screw Drew McIntyre. I think he's travelled to Glasgow for reasons of his own ego and their programme. It's that cage match we love. Austin trying to get Bray out the belt, so their match becomes for the title at WrestleMania. That whole thing. He wants Drew to win. He's like, Drew, you fucking loser. Could have been us for the title. Like, that sort of thing. And it's like, well, it's going to go down this way. I'm going to do this to you. Like, I'm going to make your life a living hell with this, and it's all going to be about me. And it's like, that's a very CM Punk choice. Not a plan, but a choice. Like, he was just doing what he always does, turns up backstage in cycling attire watching a wrestling match. Like,
it's Under Armour.
Because it looks ridiculous, yeah. That's how I believe they will illustrate the thought process of CM Punk, I think.
There's still at least one objectively stupid thing about it.
Yeah.
You know what? It's just an interference spot, man. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I'm
the SummerSlam finish
irrationally annoyed. The SummerSlam finish
was better.
You could have just, in the crowd, dressed up, the Scottish flag paint, basically substituting for the Sting mask spot or the Jericho luchador mask spot. Not the whole show. People would have, it's the social media age now. Yep. Everyone would have got it. It probably would have filtered throughout the arena.
Put him with 2 plants either side of him.
Just
that sort of thing.
Gently halfway through the main event. There's a guy and he's made his way to the front row. Was he there? And by the time you ask the question, he's already hit him with the Glasgow kiss. And then you could have marketed that as the Glasgow kiss heard around the world.
That's nice. Yeah.
That would have been so much simpler than this.
There was a lot into it, and again, I could just be made a fool out of it. Like,
it's just they're thinking they're too clever. You kind of think you're too clever.
I was pretty gripped by it nonetheless, I must say. I was like, class. It's like,
did he get the heat you expected, or do you think people were just so dumbfounded? Again? You've done this to me again?
Like,
You do the accent all the time, Paul.
This gets us round to the last point I want to make on this finish, and the multiple reasons, I guess, why it was divisive. I'm Dr. Fed. I was letting it play out when the company didn't deserve let it play out privileges, right? This is still a gamble, this one, I think. Even in 2024, even in a WWE that I have really enjoyed for 2. Clash is the moment, isn't it? Like, you could say SummerSlam, but realistically, Clash 2022 felt like the moment, right? This is actually going to go in a different direction now. It's just This one was a gamble. Like Drew McIntyre, not for the story of Drew and Punk, which is going to be great. Not for Priest and Gunther, which is probably the match to strap Gunther up. Not for a bunch of different long-term stories that have been well told and the strands that they will splinter off into. For Drew, it's wrestling's weird.
It'll be fine. This is a great decision, I think, booking wise.
I hope so. It's fake. It's predetermined. It's all about, theoretically, telling the stories to help characters move on to the next step. And yet, Joker is still a tag that you get given in wrestling. Lex Luger got it. And bookers make that decision, not the rest of them. So I was like, oh, well, I wonder if it was a real fight. Like, I don't think they're there.
No.
But it wasn't not a gamble. I think the gamble, all of them have been gambles.
I'm honestly surprised. I'm chuffed that he did it.
Me and you were having a fight over Cody Rhodes for 12 months. Do you know what I mean? Like that. I never
Who won that? Oh, yeah.
You did. First try.
And never for one second.
Second try, technically.
Yeah.
The thing with Cody not winning then was like, oh, but I was the one saying it was okay for Sammy to lose, and now everybody's losing. What?
Yeah.
Like this one feels like a safer one,
Yeah.
but I still think it's a bit of a gamble.
Won multiple world titles already, yeah.
I really get a kick out watching Drew McIntyre eating, and I've learned that now because it's happened twice in a big way, and he's very good at selling it. Really convincing at having the worst night of his life.
Going back, God, it's such narratively great on this podcast to the very start, right? It's a nice little loop to close it on, okay? Basically, that means you don't have to talk, otherwise it won't work. Is that Paul Levesque, and we talked about this with we need to do some repetitive B-show slop to make SummerSlam feel as big as it possibly could, and to preserve the milestones of the WWE calendar so that goes big, huge thing, some middling TV, big, huge thing. Like, it has to be boring with no off-season, right? Okay. Paul Levesque, who books like this and booked like this in NXT as well, has understood one crucial thing about pro wrestling. It needs to be boring at certain points. You cannot do big matches all the time. You cannot sign everyone. Tony Khan, God damn it. He knows more than anyone else. And he went 25 minutes in those endless WrestleMania.
WrestleMania needs to be boring.
Interminable main events.
I'll do it. I'll jump on that one for you guys.
He knows more than anyone that if you go long, people will probably stay with you. I mean, people stayed in 2003, so that's when he learned his lesson. He's thinking, this is a medium that never ends. I need to take the piss with their investment, and I'll trust them to come back. Otherwise, I'll give myself nothing to do. In a year's time, bookmark this. They'll do Clash. It'll be funny. They might do it in England because they've done Wales, they've done Scotland. They could do Clash at the Newcastle. Do it at the arena.
Very nice.
And we'll
Very
go.
nice.
Okay, it's close enough to Scotland, right? And then Drew will win third time. And what that'll do is that the WWE fans who insist that it is levels, storytelling, cinema, will say, it's the formula. It's not risk now, and it's not.
You've got to give the payoffs. You do have to give them. Don't you? That's the point.
He's
right
just bought with WrestleMania 40.
Yeah.
Another 18 months of this.
Yeah. And as long as the rewards are forthcoming enough, people will remain content. Like Drew and Punk, when it happens, is a reward, isn't it? Yeah. And Drew's eventual. This is the thing. Like Drew and Chad and these big decisions, they could WWE. They shouldn't get back to the title now. They should suffer the consequences of these defeats. Gunther's getting the shot at SummerSlam, so the best Drew can hope for is that he gets a Money in the Bank title match. He shouldn't, and he probably won't. Probably get in the ladder match.
Gets in the money, yeah.
Like, but I love that as
and
well.
And he can easily have not winning, it not affect the character
Loads.
at all.
Like, again, these are good examples of the wins and losses mattering and sending people elsewhere on the cards. And it's really important for the architecture of the cards.
This result, right? This result actually makes Drew McIntyre's character better.
Yeah,
it gets the most out of the character. This is me saying it.
I was right all along. I lost, but the point is, the real quiz is that I was correct about Punk and about everyone's
qualities he brings to the character will be magnified and made better. He gets way more to juice up the Punk stuff. In a year's time, bookmark this. It'll be perfect.
Let us know your thoughts on that and the entire show in the comment section below, or on X at WhatCulture WWE. Actually, they can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
Follow Michael Sidgwick at
Sidgwick.
Follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. And make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. How will this affect Monday Night Raw? Check out the Raw preview to find out a little bit more about that. And check out the AEW Collision review from today as well. But for now, this has been the Clash at the Castle review. My thanks to Hamlet, Sidgwick. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you soon.